Hey, it's MW Smith here, and I want to encourage you to watch Red Tail Hawk's work. He and his mom. Um, I mean, you don't necessarily have to write them or anything like that, but this video right here, I think this was the smoking gun. Um, I want to see if I can get what they were talking about, find it in some of the law books in Virginia, but um, they're gonna really put the puzzle together as far as how we went from being Indians to Negro to I'm sorry, Indian to Negro Indians to just Negro to African slaves. So I'm gonna play this clip. Just listen real close. All right.
Indeed.edu@gmail.com and check our show out on American Deception on YouTube. Yeah.
And our website.
And our website. Definitely check our website out, indeed-edu.org. Cool, right? We got a lot of ways to connect with us. That's what's up. It's getting better. Okay, so let's get back to the questions and comments. This one is from Long Lance. It's an interesting question. Let's read the first part. I would like to know what your opinions are on the Virginia Indians and Walter Plecker. And see, that's a loaded question by itself, because there's a lot of nasty stuff. Despite Walter Plecker, Virginia has a lot of history that a lot of people don't know about. A lot of the taxes that they were using to divide peoples and label people.
Right, that's true. And even though Walter Plecker did a lot of things, a lot of harsh.
Now I've noticed though when the whites now want to use the whole argument that they've been enslaved, and all of a sudden every single white person that wants to use the whole that we were enslaved claims to be Irish. I remember a while back in 2007, I was living in South Carolina, and I remember people were talking about the fact that Obama might be elected, or what something to do that. It was around the time he got elected there, and white folks in the South didn't like it. I remember, hearing gunshots and stuff like that go off in the town I was living in and stuff like that. And I was talking to this guy from Massachusetts who was Irish, and he was telling me that even he got his people were hated on. This was before the whole, we were enslaved thing, and we talked a lot. And he told me about how they had to go through the same thing as the Indians, which I had no idea we were India at the time. I was still thinking we were just African. I mean, I didn't like it, only because personally inside I didn't feel connected to them. I guess I would have sounded like one of those. I would have sounded more like Raven Simone at the time, because it's not to be disrespectful. You just gotta. What I'm trying to say is it's something that's been in me all my life. Like I don't know why, but I always had a vision one day of wanting to go to Ireland, sitting on a green side hill, watching the sun come up, listening to the flute play, while reading the Psalms of David. That's something that I wanted to do. And it's like you don't share that with people because there's something wrong with you. You know what I'm saying? You gotta love the motherland. You gotta love Africa. And it's like stuff like that. Why is it that I mean, I looked up to Martin Luther King. I looked up to Morgan Freeman. The actor. I was looking up to what's his name, Lamar Burton from Star Trek. So these are the people I looked up to. While at the same time, I had brothers that lived in the house with me that could care less about them, and they were all like Allen Iverson and Michael Jordan and 50 Cent and stuff like that. So it's in us, what I'm saying? Whatever it is, the spirit or whatever it's in us, it's in us. And I think we just, find ways to oppress it and tell it to shut up because it doesn't fit the norm. It doesn't fit that we're out of Africa and we ignore it our whole entire lives. But you got people like, I'll be honest, it was Lex Will's style that, what I'm saying? Like, it wasn't a GOCC dressed up looking like something out of India, or it wasn't Black Hebrew Israelites, wearing the star that's written about in the Old Testament, we're told not to wear, you know what I'm saying? Wearing that star, but then preaching, from the Bible. And it's like, once you come across that, though, you come across that courage, that courage of a lion to speak up, that courage of a tiger, to roar, and not be afraid, then it's like, all right, well now I don't care what you say. I'm gonna keep looking into this stuff. I'm gonna find the bottom of it. I'm gonna find out why I feel this way. You know, I don't even know why I went into that rant, but I'm just saying, you know what I'm saying? If that spirit's in us, you know, whatever it is, it's in us, that calling's in us, and just don't ignore it, you know what I'm saying? Because look what we've been missing out on our whole entire lives, you know what I'm saying? We could have been getting to the bottom of this. We could have had progress a long time ago, you know what I'm saying? Check this out, though.
Things to people of color. However, he was really only carrying out.
That's what it was I was getting to. The guy Plecker here that they were talking about, you know, I want to get a hold of his writings because it seems as if once the whole indentured servants, the white indentured servants started fighting back, you know what I'm saying? He came up with a caste system. He came up with a real pyramid scheme, you know, the elitist on top. Now the white indentured servants, they're free. You know, you're right beneath them, and we need somebody to be your servants, not slaves. Servants. I keep noticing in all the older writings, they didn't call everybody slaves. They called them servants. Oh, they were happy servants. You know what I'm saying? Referring to the Negro. You know, no other servitude is better than the one served by a Negro. Stuff like that. You hear that fancy term. It's like they weren't calling everybody slaves. It was servants. You know what I'm saying? Slave. Almost feels like somebody started pronouncing that just so it'd be romanticized, you know what I'm saying? Like, oh, you know, I mean, I'm just saying, just check.
The laws that were created, some of them even hundreds of years previous to him when he became.
Well, he was the he was the first register for vital statistics.
Okay.
There we go. You catch all that? All right.
Virginia.
In Virginia,
Yes,
right. And so he's the one that put all of that together in Virginia. And so, you know, he had a good deal to do with the found.
See it? Get a good look at the person that came up with your caste system. You like, get that camera off me. I don't want them to know what I look like. Oh, man. He knows.
Foundation on how it was going to work and what was going to be counted, who was going to be counted as what. And I personally think that he just, like you said, used a lot of the things that had been established before him for the past 300 years. You know, it was saying, okay, now we can finally do this. We can finally put this in the books and use this to exclude any native from ever existing in the state of Virginia.
Yeah, and again, some of these laws even started in the 1600s.
Right.
There was one law where they outlawed intermarriage between a white person.
Check that out. All right.
And a Negro or an Indian. So it was both of them. And so it was against the law.
And that was in the state of Virginia.
That was in Virginia. And
you know, the more you read about this, when you just read these books, read books on this whole subject, it seems as if they captured the Indian, if they captured our ancestors, once they were in possession of us, you were no longer an Indian. You were then considered the Negro or the African, you know what I'm saying, the servant. You were no longer able to be recognized. I mean, you physically were recognized, but you were now their property. And it could be very well what leads back into the whole fact that what was it, the people that we call Native Americans, the ones that let us find the truth, you know, exposed, you know, the whole capturing of us through them and being turned over to the 13 colonies, you know what I'm saying, so they could get paid, you know what I'm saying, and let's not leave out the Buffalo Hunters, you know, I mean the Buffalo Soldiers, I'm sorry. It seems as if once we were in the possession of the colonists, we were stripped of all of that on purpose, obviously. When you were stripped of that, and that's the title that stuck with you from then on.
times what happened in Virginia
Happened everywhere
happened
else.
in the rest of the colonies.
Right. So, you know, it's that shared responsibility thing that the colonists, you know, tried to create as a part of the states
Yes,
now. Yeah,
yes.
it actually worked pretty good too. It may not have worked in our favor, but
Right.
it worked.
Might not have. It didn't work in our favor. Not to be an asshole, but I mean, no, let's not let's not sugarcoat it.
All right, so the laws. Let's talk about some of these laws that had occurred before Walter Plecker, which he was now able to use as a legal means to I guess accomplish his goals as far as the the two classes of people.
Right. Well, another law that happened in the 1600s still, there were many laws that began back that time. One of the laws that when they were capturing slaves, they captured many Indians as slaves. And what happened in, I do believe it was either 1670 or somewhere around that time, is where they made a law where they would not label the Indians an Indian by that time if they got captured.
Here we go. Check that out. You got all that? All right, let's keep going.
They were just lumped into a category that was called Negroes and other slaves.
Okay.
And eventually, these Negroes and other slaves, eventually what happened is that the other slaves got dropped. And after a few decades, that all of these slaves just became Negroes.
Okay.
There was another very
And there it is. That's what we're looking for. All right, and if we can get it in writing, if we can get it in from their own law books, so we can go to like the Library of Philadelphia or a library in Virginia. I'm not too popular on what's the big library in Virginia, but if we can go to one of these and crack open their law books and get that, print it off, and keep that. You know what I'm saying? Like I've been learning through. I actually started doing with King Drop stuff. A lot of stuff he was bringing up, I started printing stuff off and keeping it and making my own file, my own folder, you know what I'm saying? So when this stuff changes, you know what I'm saying, I got it. I screenshot a lot of stuff and then I print it off because, you know what I'm saying, it changes. And I want to be able to point out, well, hey, this is when Wikipedia used to say this, you know. Now they cover it up and change it on purpose. So, I mean, we got to take the initiative to take that stuff before it's gone, you know.
interesting law that I need to read this one.
Okay.
This one was in 1705. I'm not sure how much they practiced this one, but it's on the books, okay? And this one is stated, be it enacted that the child of an Indian and the grandchild.
There we go. Known as a mulatto. How do you like that, huh?
Or great-grandchild of a Negro shall be deemed, accounted, held, and taken to be mulatto.
Okay.
Now that is very interesting, and that's because then later on, even in this book that I got this from, it went on to say that eventually the child of a Negro by a Negro and of an Indian by an Indian would have been a mulatto. And after one generation, there would have been no Indian or Negro, but all would have been mulattoes.
So the whole state would have been mulatto, thereby erasing any native or indigenous peoples. They can do whatever they want to now.
Now that is sick. That is so sick. And I believe this is the importance, you know what I'm saying, of knowing our ancestry. And when our ancestors had the opportunity when they were free, is they should have went back west. They should have crossed over that Mississippi and stayed as far away from them as they could. You know what? I don't know, man. It's easier said than done. You know what I'm saying? But just it seems like if our ancestors stayed in their territorial land here throughout the South or whatever. I mean, I know it in your heart. You're like, you know, this is my land. I ain't going nowhere. But if we would have seen the handwriting on the wall and would have got away, you know what I'm saying? How much of our history could have been preserved and we wouldn't be in the state that we're in. And I'm not blaming them because, like I said, when you're going through this stuff, it's hard to see what's going on, especially when you don't know there's a game being played and it's being played on you, you know?
You know?
It's like when you're cheated on, you know, you don't know you're being cheated on until it's too late. You know, you just hope that, you know, whoever's cheating on you don't catch no STDs and give it to you, you know? Whatever.
And,
Yes.
you know, they stripping that identity again.
That was, yes, very interesting.
And And what you said, when was, now first, let's give the audience, what book was that? You mentioned that this was the book. Do you
This is
remember?
a book that was called Virginia, wait a minute, I have it here, Virginia Reports.
The Virginia Reports.
Yes.
You know, just to make sure that y'all can go back and, you know, kind of reference this information and check it out for yourself. So yeah, but the Virginia Reports is actually a lot of different things, because I know some court, there were also a bunch of different court decisions that would allow Walter Pecker to carry out his race war or his two class wars.
Well, in the 1700s and 1800s, there were many court races, many, because there were many people who were fighting against what they were being called. You know, there were many Native Americans that were being called Negroes, and they were fighting. The only way that they could fight that was in court, and some of them won, some of them.
I know what they're talking about too, because I sent Arthur Scott Jr. a list of this a while back, of a list I found in South Carolina where it had all types of Indians that were being called Negro or African, and they documents their court cases of when they're fighting, trying to prove, no, we are the indigenous people from. I mean, it had everything from the Yamasee, Cherokee, all kinds of tribes. I think it was like Limbo or Limba, something like that. The Choctaw, all of them. So I know it's real what they're talking about. You know what I'm saying? When they are, if I'm gonna find it, I'm gonna leave it in the description box. It might not be as soon as the video is uploaded, but keep checking back in. I'll get it back.
Didn't.
Right.
You know, so yeah. Oh, there's many courts.
I know.
About that.
Did the 116th rule come from Virginia? Was that a Virginia?
Okay, well.
No, that's
let's-
Oklahoma.
Yeah, that
Okay.
ended up in Oklahoma in the early 1900s.
Okay.
But before that, you know, there were laws. So again, in Virginia, there's a law that happened in 1866. So this would be right after the Emancipation.
Okay.
All right. But this one, and again, this one is defining who the Indians were. Okay. And this is an 1866 law that was trying to define who the Indians were, and it stated, every person having 1/4 or more Negro blood shall be deemed a colored person, and every person not.
Let's see. This is what I can't get my mind around it. Why was this whole thing based off of Negro blood? Period. If you had so much Negro blood, you were an Indian. If you had too much Negro blood, then you're an African. It was still based off of Negro blood. Why wasn't it based off of the Turk blood or the blood of the people we call Native Americans? Negroes, you are clearly, shown there in your opinion, in the European opinion, they are the Africans. They are not Indians. So I'm saying, like, the wording right there, the wording would lead you to believe that the Negro, the so-called African, is the native. See what I'm saying? Check that out, though.
A colored person having 1/4 or more Indian blood shall be deemed Indian. Okay? So again, that means that a person who could have been 3/4 Indian, if it was said that they had Negro in their family or in their bloodline, even if that Negro, if it was a slave, and remember, we already said that some of these slaves got labeled Negro, but they were still Indians.
Correct.
Okay, but they got labeled Negro. But if that person got labeled Negro, now the whole family now, because of this law,
Is now a Negro,
is now a colored
a
person.
colored person, and they're not allowed. They're not able to be identified as their, native self.
That's correct.
You know,
Yes.
and, okay, thereby, again, that's one quick decision that stripped away how many Native Americans from being
Right.
able to be identified as such.
But,
Right,
but notice also though that it said, the law went on to say that every person.
And when I think about this, I think about the book of Jeremiah, where I know a lot of these Hebrew Israelites that get onto my case, about mixing and stuff like that. Because I point out, Joseph slept with an Egyptian, but Solomon was not allowed to sleep with the Egyptian. What was the difference? I keep saying I believe it was this mindset and it was the heart. The Creator knew where Joseph's heart was. He knew where Solomon's heart was too, and he knew Solomon couldn't take it. But that's besides the point. I'll get into that some other time. But I wonder in the book of Jeremiah, when it talks about the first people that came over that you're not supposed to mix with, was it the Turks? Was it these people here that, because the fact that if you did, then now they have an access to your land, and now this was going to be the swap. They're going to be you. You're going to be something else, while on your own soil. See what I'm saying? But If you get a chance, just check out this rest of this video. Check him out. You know what I'm saying? Subscribe, whatever you want, because that right there is a golden nugget. That right there is so important. That right there, answers more than you're going to hear a lot on these Pan-Africans. You spend your whole entire life listening to Pan-Africans and so on and so forth, and still won't know who you are. That right there, I believe, leads us right back to who we are, and then some. But check it out if you can. All right, it's N.W. Smith. Thanks for listening to me rant. For this time, take care, everyone. Peace out.